Well, a lot of robot jobs, but
Right.
you know, because a lot of the stuff is done automatically. But
Yeah. That's true.
jobs, still jobs though.
This is Clint, CEO of SelfArray. Want to just give a brief introduction of what the company does and
Sure. So SelfArray is a spinoff of RPI. So it has some key technology that came from RPI, and basically what we do is, if you've ever seen any sort of screen, you know, computer screen, TV screen, there's tiny little red, green, and blue pixels on making up the entire screen. What we can do is we can take micro-sized LEDs, red, green, and blue, and place them in the pixel locations and make an entire screen out of LEDs itself. Makes it about, it uses 1/10 the electricity, it's got 100 times better contrast ratio, super fast refresh rate, so it's great for sports and things like that. And it's also super bright, so you can see it like outside in the middle of the day.
awesome.
So SelfArray was funny because I had another company that I started 15 years ago called Avid Technologies. I founded that with two other guys, started up, launched several different products, sold a bunch of things, sold some technology to Samsung, among others. And then I sold the company. And right before I sold it, a professor from RPI called me up and said, hey, do you want to be the CEO of a new company that I want to start doing this SelfArray stuff? So the technology wasn't even mine. It was brought to me, and I guess just because I had some success in the display industry before, like selling stuff to Samsung, that this professor reached out to me, so I got sort of lucky. Externally focused CEO, which means going off and raising money and talking to customers and getting business development stuff done. So it sort of goes, it runs in cycles. So basically after you raise money from outsiders, then it's time to hunker down and focus more on internal issues and things like that. So it sort of runs the whole gamut. Encouraging creativity is a tough thing. Like I've tried to interview for it. I've tried to have some exercises for it, and I don't know.
Yeah, it's always a process.
Yeah, I guess there's got to be some sort of process to get people thinking creative. And I've tried all kinds of academic type things, but I don't think it actually makes you more creative. But I think the best thing is just to encourage creativity, if nothing else. So you just tell people that they could patent stuff, come up with inventions, they get rewards for it and things like that. So sort of just reward the general idea of creating something new.
Yeah, like avoid micromanaging and just let people just do their thing.
Yep. Boy, all in different ways. Because without any of them, you lose. You don't have a real company. So all of those are just pretty equally important. Core values is a little sketchy. I mean, maybe core values are important. To me as a CEO, I wanna be true to myself and be nice to people and all that kind of stuff, and foster creativity and all these kind of things. And so that's something that comes with personality, I think. And then vision and mission, that could change over time, so it can morph and move and you can pivot and things like that. So, but they're all important, and it's important for everybody to sort of know what they are too.
Yeah.
Yes. When right now at SelfArray, we're basically a 3-person company, so it's super tiny, and we really don't have like vision get-togethers. We do have strategic planning meetings where we talk about what's going to happen in 3 years, 2 years, 1 year. So what are you going to do? But when I had a bigger company like 50 employees, yeah, I would do monthly meetings and just keep talking about the vision and where are we and updates and things like that.
For the future, people looking for a job and new roles,
I tend to hire interesting people. I know it's kind of a weird answer, but if there's a little twist, or if there's something different on the resume, if they've tried to do something crazy, then they'll get the selection above others. So
Awesome.
even if, like, in my youth, I thought that taking a semester off or something from college was, or between high school and college, or between college and grad school, that you shouldn't do that. You got to show continuity. But no, I mean, I think that if somebody did that, it'd be like, that's probably an interesting person. I wonder what they did during that time off.
Not a lot of people in the U.S. do that.
No.
I know in Europe,
Yeah.
everybody does that.
Yeah.
And I think they find themselves better, and they're
Definitely. Yep.
able to understand what they want to do.
Yep. There's really two. So the market which we play is pretty aggressive right now, and there seems to be a lot of bigger companies buying up smaller companies. So I'm hoping that one outcome is we get to a point quickly where we can be bought by a larger company. The other is more of the long haul, and that is keep progressing along our path, and we want to be a LED array manufacturer. So we want to align all these little LEDs, millions of them, in an array per the specs of our customer, and then we sell them these panels. And it'd be pretty straightforward to manufacture for us, and I think we can do it right here in the U.S. too. From a company standpoint, the biggest thing I learned is you have to have super cheap LEDs, like the source. So the cost of goods for our invention has to be really cheap, like cheaper than what I had anticipated. I thought there's the cool factor for the neat new display type and all that kind of stuff, but cool has got to be cheap too. So learn that it's got to be what we're doing is we're actually partnering with a big LED manufacturing company to try to get the price down.
Do you mind sharing the name, or
I don't know if I can yet.
maybe in the future when there's an update?
Yep. Maybe being scooped by a company with more resources, because a lot of people are studying this field and trying to just develop the next display. So if there's somebody out there that's got more cash and moving faster than us, that's a vulnerability. Yeah, there's a lot of companies studying another technique. So we use magnets to move things into place, and it works very fast. There's other companies that are using more of a printing technique that also moves pretty fast, transfer printing, and that is the thing that could affect us in the future. If that gets adopted wildly, then it's going to be tougher for us maybe to get into the market. Although it may be like if that technology gets bought by one particular company, then the other companies will be looking for an alternative. So it could work good for us too.
Are you looking into that possibly?
Oh yeah. We, as a CEO of a startup, you always got to be keeping your finger on the pulse of what's going on out there. I look at the news all the time and see who's buying whom and try to get the inside scoop.
Security.
I mean, our marching orders from our customers are pretty clear, so we know what we have to make and demo. So the only new technology that we're going to invest in is just more equipment, like to actually help us scale up from prototype, because we have a prototype display that's this big, and we want to get to much bigger and smaller LEDs and everything else. So it's really all about investing in equipment at this point. Yeah. So one of the future markets that doesn't exist right now that we think is going to be big is digital cinema. So you go to a movie theater right now, and there's a projector, and it's been projecting since I don't know, Edison, whoever invented the projector, you know. So that's sort of the way to, you know, to show movies. It's not the most efficient. It's not, you don't get the best refresh rate, contrast ratios, everything else. So imagine a cinema screen that is basically a TV. You know, it's got the pixels on it already. It would be quite an experience to watch it that way, because it would be
so much brighter.
Much brighter, and the effects would be crazy, and the contrast ratio, you could get really black, you know, scenes, and then super bright scenes. It would be something, and that doesn't exist today because it's crazy expensive right now. But we can make it a lot cheaper, like a tenth the price of what it is today.
Okay.
We're trying to find a sort of a beachhead product, and basically the process that I usually go through on that is talk to as many customers as possible. We've talked to 100 or so people in the display industry in some way, and see who is the most excited and has the most to gain from using our technology. So we've identified a few, and we're starting to work with them to figure out what do they actually want to see, you know. And then if we can get to the point of a sort of a conditional purchase order or something like that, where they say, all right, if you can make X, I would buy it, you know. And that's sort of the point we're getting to right now. We need some more cash to do that, so I'm off raising money right now. Yeah, I mean, the best is to be a good employee, and then you know, help, like create and think and build. Like you know, we have 3 employees right now, but everybody's great. They're all working hard, and you know, there's no problems. If there's, sometimes you get problem employees, you know, people that don't, you know, sort of just treat it as a job, which as a startup, you don't want to have an employee that just treats it as a 9-to-5 job.
Yeah.
It's not, you're not going to get the full out of them. But if they don't treat it as a job, if they treat it as like, wow, this could be, you know, a big thing that can affect my future, that's probably the best sort of motivation for them to actually make some meaningful change in the company going forward. I always try to find, you know, I try to test for creativity, but basically energy level, you know, they got to be high energy, you know, able to work and think about stuff when crazy hours, you know, not even be at work crazy hours, but just always be processing and thinking about things. So I want somebody that'd be totally invested in the company.
Not particularly any hard skill you like to
Depends. I mean, there's some skill positions. You know, probably the next person we hire, they're going to have to be skilled in like sort of mechanics and robotics, because we have to make some automated systems to help us with scale up. So those are sort of the hard skills. The soft skills are actually at least as important, and oftentimes harder to test for. In the past, we've done a lot of like Myers-Briggs personality tests and things like that. I mean, it's intriguing to see, but it doesn't really tell you, you know, how the person's actually going to fit.
Yeah,
you know, do you want an extrovert or an introvert for this position? I mean, it doesn't really matter. Do you know, that type of thing. But what it does show you is, will the puzzle pieces fit together? Like, will that employee piss off the other person that he's working with just like naturally because of their personalities, you know? And if so, still hire them maybe, but have the conversation that this is how they like to communicate with each other, you know, so they understand each other. I mean, the biggest pivot recently, and it won't be seen as too much of a pivot, is just our mindset about how we can make things so cheap, you know, like we're backing up, like we can save so much manufacturing time. Like if you use a robot to do pick and place and place all the LEDs in an array, if you're doing a 4K display, it takes about 2 months to do that. And ours, you could do it in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And we were like, well, that's huge. That's just, this stuff will sell itself.
Yeah.
That's not the case. So it's great to have it be that much faster, therefore cheaper, but the whole thing has to come down under a price point that people are interested in too. So ours is part of the equation, and then we also had to use really inexpensive LEDs as well. So that was sort of a pivot from the beginning. I thought, oh man, this technology will get so hot, almost sell itself. I mean, nothing really does, but that
if it's that fast,
yeah, we'd be done
yeah.
if we could just demonstrate how fast we could manufacture these things, but that's not the case. Entrepreneurship and starting a company, it's really a lifestyle commitment, so you have to be surrounded by people that understand that. So I ruined a marriage before because I was entrepreneurial and she was not at all, and you can't, it won't last, in my opinion. It makes